So about a week ago, I actually played in my very first ever Vanguard game through remote fighting against my friend Aaron. He was playing a couple of different decks. I was playing the Royal Paladin deck, of course. Basically just a slightly altered version of the Alt Mile trial deck. If you missed the introduction episode of this series of getting into Vanguard, to recap what the deck is, it's literally just the Alt Mile trial deck, except I'm playing 4 Little Sage Marins, which I ordered online, and I took out a couple of the grade 1s just to make up for that. And if you guys are brand new to the series and don't know what this is, basically this is my journey getting into Cardfight Vanguard after being interested in the card game ever since it came out in the United States in about 2011 or 2012, and ever since I've been playing Vanguard Zero a ton since it released globally, and I still play it every single day. Decided to get into the card game since I love card games. I also play Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. So while I am new to Cardfight Vanguard as a card game, I am not 100% new to card games in general. So like I said earlier, I played against my friend Aaron, and he was playing a few different decks. First he used a trial deck that was an Oracle Think Tank trial deck. I believe it was the exact same thing as the other trial deck. And then his other deck was actually his main deck. Aaron likes to play a lot of weird decks when it comes to card games, a lot more trolley decks. And I forget the exact name of the deck, but he had something that would drive check 7 times or something like that, and it would attack from the rear guard. It was such a weird deck. But for the first matchup, it was basically trial deck versus trial deck. Mine was slightly altered, of course. And I actually ended up winning the first game, and it made me realize how different Vanguard is from not only Cardfight Vanguard Zero, but from other card games I've played. So the background of this video is going to be mostly the 2 games that I played against my friend, and I'm also going to explain some of the differences between Zero and Vanguard, as well as some other things I've noticed through other card games. So one of the biggest changes between Vanguard Zero and the actual Cardfight Vanguard card game, which I got to learn while playing, is guarding. So in Zero, when you get attacked and they attack your Vanguard and you damage check, you always get plus 5k, and if you hit a trigger you get plus 10k. In Vanguard, when you damage check, you don't get a set amount of damage or set amount of power increase every time you damage check. You only damage check and then get power if you hit a trigger, but you can guard. So on some cards on the side, they'll have a power that's like plus 5,000 or plus 10k. You can discard that from your hand to block, and you can also use interceptors that way. Interceptors work completely different than in Zero. So in Zero, when you have an interceptor in your front rear guard circle, I think that's what it's called, front rear guard circle, right? If they have to attack that before they attack your Vanguard, unless they have some sort of skill that goes beyond intercepts. But in the actual card game, you just use them as if they were blockers, not really blockers, I guess guards in your hand, and they would gain the power to your Vanguard. And you pretty much just constantly have to make sure your Vanguard has insane power. Like in Zero, a lot of the times, cards don't really get past 30k power. That's like 30k power if they drive check, hit a trigger, and they're boosted. But in regular Vanguard, things were going up to 5-6k just to get around things. I was using my imaginary gift to boost my alt mile while attacking, and I was going to 37k or something crazy before drive checks. And speaking of drive checks, you get to draw the card you drive check even if you don't hit a draw trigger. So in Zero, when you damage check, when you drive check for an offensive check, you don't add that card to your hand, but in the regular card game you do. So I realized that I was actually having a lot of cards in my hand, and compared to other card games, obviously having card advantage is a big plus in most card games. There was never really much of a situation, unless I was really losing, where I didn't have a lot of cards in my hand. I feel like I always had 5+ cards in my hand because I would damage check, drive check, whatever, twin drive, draw 2, hit a trigger, whatever, play alt mile or the grade 2, whatever it's called, search for 2 other grade 2s. My hand was stacked. It almost felt like I was playing Pokemon with how many cards were in my hand, because Pokemon is a card game where you always have a lot of cards in your hand. But the difference is with Pokemon you have a lot of cards in your hand because there's a lot of cards that specifically draw. In Vanguard, you just naturally draw so much. I also noticed that in regular Vanguard, it's a lot more common to put non-grade 2s in your front guard circle, whereas in Vanguard Zero, you pretty much only ever want to put grade 2s or grade 3s in your front rear guard. You very rarely put the grade 1s. And of course, there's no limit between how many grades you can run in Zero versus the actual card game. And you also have the grade Zeros in the main deck, where in Zero, the only grade Zeros you have are your starting Vanguard, which most of the time, unless you're playing some specific clans, like I believe Razors do it, where they like shuffle the starting Vanguard back into the deck, it's just going to be in your soul the whole game. And a lot of the times with those grade Zeros, which are your triggers by the way, in Zero you can set your triggers on grade 3s, but in the regular card game it's only on the grade Zeros. They could be used as boosters if you really wanted to, but they don't really offer that much power. And I would always shuffle them back if I saw them in my opening hand. I'm not sure if that's like the correct play. I feel like it is if you open a trigger, just shuffle it right back right away. But they were also decent to hold on to because they tended to have the higher values when it came for guarding to discard from your hand while you're getting attacked. The force markers were also really cool, or whatever they're called. So basically, and I should have probably had it next to me instead of just not having a script and just talking. But the force mark, I believe Force 1 gives you plus 12k or something like that, or 15k. And then Force 2, you always crit, which just completely boggled my mind because in Zero, one of the best decks is MLB because you can always crit if you do the skill properly. And in Zero, you just, grade 3, boom, always have a crit. And of course, you could guard the crit, so it wasn't really as bad. Perfect guards can also be used at any time, not only when you were to lose, which I think is fantastic because it makes perfect guards a little bit better. And the fact that Force 2 isn't just completely bust, at least from my understanding, it's not considered severely OP like you think it would be, or at least I think it would be, is actually pretty crazy. Speaking of MLB though, I did manage to pre-order the MLB box set. I forget the exact name of it, but I was looking into it and it comes with this really cool deck box. It comes with the MLB starter deck, I guess you could call it. It's kind of like a trial deck. First off, it was $70, which really surprised me because I thought, like, from what I heard, people made it seem like it was a trial deck, so I thought it'd be like $20, but it was $70. But I guess it makes sense because it has a lot of really good cards. It has a lot of holo cards, and it has a deck box, which is one of the coolest looking deck boxes I've ever seen. The deck box I use right now for my Vanguard deck is just one of those generic black Ultra Pro deck boxes that I've had for literally over 15 years. So getting an upgrade would be pretty nice. That should be in early October. I believe it comes out October 2nd. Kind of crept up on me, by the way, because I remember seeing that it was coming out thinking like, oh, October, that's pretty far off. It's like the middle of September already. So I wanted to get it before it sold out because that's something I could see selling out and being like $100+. From what I've seen though, looking at like people's tier lists and stuff from the Japanese, is it called OCG, like in Yu-Gi-Oh, if it's the Japanese Vanguard or it's just Japanese Vanguard? I'm not really sure. But from the Japanese tournaments, because they're a few months ahead of us in terms of set releases and stuff like that, MLB wasn't considered like a top deck. It was considered more of like a competitive rogue deck. So I don't know if that's like a bad thing that I basically spent $100 to build like a rogue deck. Granted, $100 for Vanguard might not be that much. Before I got into Vanguard, like physically, it always seemed like one of the more expensive card games, but the more I looked into it now, it doesn't seem as expensive as I once thought, especially since there's a lot of different rarities, kind of like in Pokemon, where you could have one card that's worth like $50 just because of the rarity, and then a low rarity version of that card that does the same exact thing, doesn't look as nice, worth like $2 or something like that. So that's just me rambling about my first experience playing Vanguard. This is getting into Vanguard episode 1, I guess. I probably should have titled episode 0 episode 1, and this should be episode 2 because this makes more sense being episode 2. But we finally got to play a game of Vanguard Remote Fight. If you don't know, I have a main Pokemon channel that I upload twice a week on. Link is in the description if you want to check it out if you're a fan of Pokemon. It's about the games and stuff like that, not so much about the card game, so it is quite different. That's why I have this second channel that I just dump all of my card game stuff on because I absolutely love card games, and I feel like, especially in the last year or two, they've become like my favorite genre of games with all of these card games I've been getting into since I got back into Yugioh, since I started playing Pokemon physically again, since I started playing TCG a lot, and of course now with Cardfight Vanguard. I did visit my local card shop the other day. I didn't get any Vanguard cards though. I got Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Sorry. I wanted that Dark Magician promo, but they didn't have it. And they do Vanguard tournaments, so I'm really looking forward to when play returns in my area because I live in New York and coronavirus is still a very real thing that people should be taking seriously. And with that, it means that there's no tournaments in my area for any card games, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Vanguard, even Magic. I don't think there's any card game tournaments going on in my area. So hopefully that'll return soon. I would love to go to a tournament. and just show you guys what I can do, maybe even get a top. I don't really know how the Vanguard tournament structure works. I know there's like locals and regionals and BCS and like BF Spring Festivals something, and they do it with like Y Shorts and Buddy Fight, but Buddy Fight's like canceled, I think. I don't know anything about Buddy Fight or Y Shorts. I just know Y Shorts are the ones with all the cool anime stuff, and I wanted to get the Kill la Kill one because I love Kill la Kill, but it was really expensive. Either way, I really am rambling. Cardfight Vanguard, getting into it, episode 1, wrapping it up. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all next time, and bye-bye.